Hi YouTube. Today we're going to discuss when can you legally shoot. And that's actually a question that I get asked a lot in the class, and when I'm giving classes I should say. And Texas Law Shield came out with a really great quick guide to when you are legally allowed to shoot and when you are only allowed to use force, not deadly force. And as you know, there is a difference. So it's called When Can I Legally Shoot? Knowing the Law of Deadly Force in Texas. Now, as I've said before, I'm not selling Texas Law Shield. I do not represent them, and I am not doing this video in specific for them. Okay? But it is a very good book, and it's really plain and simple. If anybody has ever read over the Texas Penal Code, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a whole lot of whereas, shall as, be there, and, you know, Penal Code section 244, 111, 932, you know, and it just goes on and on and on until your brain is corrupt. And then the Texas Penal Code also does this, and I don't know why they do it. They don't strike out things when they change the law. They amend it to the bottom of, and it causes a lot of confusion. I've actually done another video on that particular problem when it comes to where a 3006 is required and so forth. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. When can I legally shoot? You can buy it from Texas Law Shield by going to their website. It's $9.95, and you know, it doesn't look like much. It looks like just a little magazine. But I tell you what, it is well worth the $9.95. Okay? Because when you open it, it's right away. Am I charged, you know, I'm charged with what? How bad is it? And it goes through if you're charged with misdemeanors for specific things, and if you get charged with felonies, what those particular things can be. And then it also, in the corner here, covers what the punishment is on the felony levels compared to the misdemeanor levels, Class A, Class B, Class C. Okay? And I'm just going over there, so I'm not going to go in depth because really it's something you need to sit down and really review it. But then it gives you particular scenarios which are really nice. What do I do after bang? The Texas criminal legal process. It takes you through the steps if they bill or no bill, or, you know, so on and so forth. If you go before the grand jury, or if your case goes before the grand jury, so on and so forth. And invoking your legal rights, step by step, what you need to do. And let me tell you what, this is one of the most important pages that you will ever read. If you don't know what you're supposed to do after you ever pull that trigger, if you ever have to pull that trigger, I should say, with your gun, then you really need to get your hands on something like this, because that is one of the most important times that you'll need to know what your rights are. And then it moves on to say, you know, when is it not a crime? Legal justification of deadly force, and reasonable person standard. Texas law does not say, if this happens, you can do this, because it's called reasonable person standard. Would a reasonable person have reacted in the same manner you did? It's not a law. It's a reasonable person in a similar situation. Would they have reacted in the manner that you did? That's the way it's going to be looked at. The law of self-defense. It covers threats. When you can legally use deadly force, when can you legally use deadly force? Okay? So, law of defense of others. Can you defend other people? And we know, if you've gone to the CHL class, then you know answers to this. But it's not only just for CHL. These laws also apply for people that are carrying weapons in their cars, because you don't have to be licensed in Texas for that. And people that own guns in their home. Obviously, you don't have to be licensed for that. So, these same recommendations will help you there also. And then also, when can you legally use deadly force in protection of your property? And then when can you use deadly force in the protection of a third person's property? Protection against animals. You know, some people, and city codes will intervene here. People have been arrested or ticketed for Discharging firearms within city limits because it's against the city code. Okay, but it's not against state law. That's when it comes in handy that you know what your what your rights are. Okay, and then there's theft and robbery. What are your rights there? What can you and can you not do? And then there's burglary, the crime of burglary. Retreating. Do you have to retreat? No, no, and no in Texas. You have no legal duty to retreat. You are not required to retreat. Your use of deadly force is justified under the law. You are not required to legally retreat unless you put yourself in a position, as they said, that the normal person standards would not have met. Okay? I know that a particular alley is ridden with gangbangers and drug users, okay? I have a right, if you want to go by rights like that, to walk down that alley. But if I am licensed to carry, I do not have a right to walk down that alley if I have another means of getting to where I'm going. Okay, if it's the only means, because maybe I live at the end of the alley, then that's different. But if I have other means and a reasonable person would not have wandered down that same alley knowing it, say I knew it, then that's not going to be considered what you would call legally justified, because a reasonable person, it won't meet the reasonable person standards. So take things like that into consideration. We always say it's my right, I can do this and I can do that. That's true if you look at it in that sense. But when you're carrying a gun, things change. You have to look at things like, would a reasonable person do this if I am going to be called to defend myself in this situation? Okay? So that's just one of the things that, you know, again, things that you need to look at. The Castle Doctrine in the state of Texas. Your house, your car, your place of business, if you are the owner, are your castle in the state of Texas. They are extensions of your castle. Civil liability. You're not out of the woods yet. Just because the criminal system says you were justified, that does not mean that the civil system will not say that you need to pay. Okay? So you always have to take that into consideration. And then it has a nice little chart on the back. Where am I legally allowed to carry? Just a quick reference chart. You could even keep that in your car. So again, it's not big, it's not long, but it is an excellent map, so to speak, and a guide. So I would highly recommend that you take a look at it. You know, it's worth the $9.95 investment. So if you live in Texas and you own a gun, not just if you're licensed to carry, but if you own a gun, check out their website. And they have other, you know, good things on their information, on their website, a lot of good information. So check it out. And if you carry, I recommend that you go ahead and get this. When can I legally shoot? Knowing the law of deadly force in the state of Texas.